You ever just wake up feeling heavy as hell, staring at the ceiling and asking yourself, is this seriously my life? Not even sad, just empty, disconnected, like you're stuck behind glass, watching the world move, but you can't reach it. Maybe someone told you you're depressed. Maybe you've thought about it too. But here's a thought. What if you're not actually depressed? What if you're just seeing the world exactly for what it is? And it's driving you insane? Because honestly, look around. Really look. The endless scrolling. People glued to screens, comparing fake lives they don't even enjoy. Friendships built on likes. Relationships glued together with hollow compliments. Jobs that drain your soul dry, just so you can barely pay rent for places you don't even want to be in. Maybe your body, your mind, your entire soul isn't broken. Maybe it's just screaming at you, begging you to wake up. There's this guy I knew, Mike. Classic case of had everything. Good job, stable relationship, friends that called him every weekend. On paper, he was fine. But I remember this one conversation we had. He told me he felt like he was floating, like he was in some messed up movie where nothing felt real. The laughs around him, fake. The things people talked about, hollow. Every day, just a replay of yesterday's episode. Mike went to a therapist. First thing they said, sounds like depression. And sure, maybe it could have been. But the more he looked around, the clearer it became. He wasn't depressed. He was waking up. He was seeing the insanity of everything around him, and it was making him question why no one else seemed to notice, why nobody else seemed bothered. And honestly, maybe that's exactly where you're at too. You're not losing your mind. You're finally using it. You're finally seeing the strings, the traps, the illusions keeping everyone asleep. And that emptiness you're feeling, it's the start of something powerful. Something you can't unsee, something that will forever separate you from those who choose comfort over clarity. And maybe that's terrifying, but maybe it's also the first time you've ever truly felt alive. See, here's the thing most people won't admit to themselves. The second you start noticing how hollow everything feels, the world labels you as broken, like you're defective just because you can't play pretend anymore. Just because you stopped faking enthusiasm about stuff that's honestly meaningless. But maybe that's your strength, not your weakness. Maybe the discomfort you're feeling right now, the weird emptiness, the nagging sense that everything around you just feels off, maybe that's not a symptom you need to medicate away or ignore. Maybe it's your intuition finally coming alive, begging you to stop living life on autopilot. Think about it. Every day, millions of people wake up, swipe their alarm off, gulp down coffee just to function, rush to a job they don't even care about, smile at coworkers they secretly resent, and scroll through social media comparing their real lives to someone else's filtered highlight reel. They call it normal. They call it life. But is it really? If that's normal, why does it feel so deeply wrong? If that's what happiness is supposed to look like, why do so many of us feel completely drained by it? The truth is, society isn't built for people who ask questions like these. Society is built for those willing to numb themselves just enough to keep chasing a carrot they never actually get to taste. Society thrives on the quiet desperation of people who never look too deeply, who never question too loudly, who never notice the bars around their cage. And you're starting to see the cage. You're beginning to feel its weight, its emptiness. You're noticing how many people around you are smiling, but only because they're afraid that if they stop pretending, the whole thing might fall apart. When Mike told his therapist he couldn't find joy in any of the stuff that once kept him going, they told him he needed to adjust his meds, try a new hobby, get more sleep. They told him he was broken, malfunctioning. But Mike wasn't malfunctioning. He was finally functioning at a higher level than ever before. He had finally started seeing through the illusions, through the superficial promises society hands us to keep us quiet and compliant. It is no measure of health to be well-adjusted to a profoundly sick society. Think about that for a second. Really let that sink in. Maybe you're not sick at all. Maybe you're not depressed, not weak, not mentally ill. Maybe you've just stopped being well-adjusted to the madness that everyone else accepts as normal. Maybe you're finally waking up from a long, heavy sleep, and the jarring feeling you have right now is your first breath of real clarity. Yeah, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it feels weird. But would you honestly prefer to keep living with your eyes shut, feeling empty but never asking why? Or would you rather step into the discomfort, embrace the unease, and start reclaiming your life from a society that profits off your numbness? Because here's the truth. Real awakening isn't blissful. It's messy. It's raw. It forces you to tear down the illusions you've been clinging to your whole life. It makes you uncomfortable in the best possible way. And that discomfort, that sense of disconnection from the insanity around you, is exactly what's needed to finally feel alive. And trust me, once you're awake, once you really start seeing things clearly, you won't ever be able to go back to sleep. You won't even want to. Here's something most people won't ever tell you openly, because admitting it feels dangerous. Once you're awake, it's going to feel lonely at first. And that's the hardest part of all. Suddenly, you're sitting at dinner with friends, laughing at jokes that feel hollow, nodding along to conversations you can't connect with, and wondering why nobody else seems bothered by how fake it all feels. You're stuck in this awkward limbo, halfway between your old self who wanted so badly to fit in, and your new self who can't pretend anymore. You start wondering if it's just you. Maybe you're overthinking again. Maybe you're the one who's off. So you try to go back. You try to blend in again. You try watching the same shows, gossiping about the same pointless drama, and chasing the same superficial goals you used to chase. But every time you do, it feels even emptier. It's like tasting artificial sweetener after knowing what real sugar tastes like. Nothing feels satisfying anymore. Because here's the deal. Once you've seen past the illusions, you can't unsee them. You can't put the blindfold back on and pretend everything's okay. Your mind won't let you. Your spirit won't let you. It knows too much now. You've already glimpsed what's beneath the surface, and now everything else looks like a shallow act. Carl Jung, the legendary psychologist, talked a lot about something he called individuation. It's this process of becoming truly yourself, authentic, aware, fully awake. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But he also warned that the journey toward authenticity isn't easy. It can feel isolating, intense, sometimes even unbearable. But it's a journey you have to take if you ever want to experience real freedom. Maybe that's exactly what's happening to you now. You're breaking free from all the expectations, the roles you've been playing, the quiet desperation you've gotten used to accepting as normal. You're finally daring to ask yourself, who am I when I'm not pretending to be what others expect me to be? And this question terrifies people because it threatens the stability of everything they've built their lives around. But here's the powerful truth you're discovering right now. That stability was never real to begin with. It was just comfort, routine, and compliance. It was just a prison disguised as a palace. You're not alone. You're just ahead of the curve. You're seeing clearly what millions of others feel deep down, but don't dare to acknowledge. And the loneliness you feel, it's not permanent. It's just the empty space where your old illusions used to live. Soon, new connections will form. Connections built on truth, authenticity, and genuine awareness. The more you wake up, the more you'll naturally attract others who are waking up too. You'll find people who don't want small talk, who crave real conversations, people who refuse to live life through filters, people who don't just exist but genuinely live. These people, your people, will see you clearly. They'll resonate with your truths. You won't have to water yourself down or dumb yourself down ever again. But first, you have to accept the discomfort of standing alone, even if just for a moment, because it's right there, in that discomfort, that you truly meet yourself. Not the version society molded you into, not the version your friends or family told you to be, but you, raw, real, and finally awake. And once you taste that kind of clarity, there's no going back. You'll never settle for a numbness again. You'll never tolerate illusions, games, or empty performances. You'll finally understand what Jung meant when he said that becoming who you truly are is life's greatest privilege. It's the difference between merely existing and finally feeling alive. See, here's the thing nobody prepares you for. Once you're awake, the old version of you starts falling apart. It's subtle at first. You stop being able to pretend like everything's okay when it clearly isn't. You stop laughing at jokes that don't land. You stop nodding along to conversations about nothing. You stop numbing yourself with habits that never actually made you feel good. They just made you feel less bad. And that's the scary part, because now, who even are you? You've spent years being exactly who you thought you had to be. Someone safe, predictable, easy to digest. Now that you're dropping the act, what's left? Let me tell you something that might actually shock you. What's left is exactly who you were always meant to be. But it's hidden underneath layers and layers of conditioning. Beneath all those masks you put on just to fit in or get approval. Beneath all those habits you picked up because someone else said, this is how you're supposed to live. And the reason this feels so terrifying is because now you're finally forced to face yourself. No distractions, no filter, just you, raw, unedited, undeniably real. There's a reason why so many philosophers, thinkers, and spiritual teachers talk about awakening as a painful process. It's because real awakening isn't some pretty Instagram quote or motivational speech. It's messy as hell. It forces you to tear down the walls you spent a lifetime building. It makes you face uncomfortable truths about yourself, the ways you've hidden, the ways you've played small, the ways you've accepted far less than you deserve. But here's the beautiful paradox. In the messiness, in the rawness, in that awkward gap between who you were and who you're becoming, that's exactly where the magic happens. That's where real transformation occurs. That's where your life finally starts belonging to you, not the expectations of everyone around you. Alan Watts once described awakening like this: waking up to who you are but requires letting go of who you imagine yourself to be. And that's exactly it. You imagined yourself to be someone who was content with shallow friendships, meaningless work, and a predictable path that didn't even feel like your own. But now you're awake. Now you're seeing clearly, and you simply can't hold on to that illusion any longer. So yes, it feels lonely sometimes. Yes, you wonder if you're going crazy. And yes, there will be moments when you wish you could slip back into comfortable ignorance. But trust me, the pain of waking up is nothing compared to the pain of staying asleep for the rest of your life. Pretending, faking smiles, settling for mediocre happiness, that's not living. That's existing. And the real question isn't, can I handle waking up? The real question is, can I handle living the rest of my life asleep? Because deep down, you already know the answer to that. You already know you can't go back to that version of you, the one who quietly accepted a life that never actually belonged to you. So embrace the discomfort, lean into the awkwardness, allow yourself to feel the confusion, the doubt, the fear, because every single feeling is guiding you closer to who you actually are, not the version others demanded of you, not the watered down you that everyone found easy to handle, the real you. And trust me, when you finally get there, when you finally settle into your true self, you'll look back at this messy period and realize it was never about losing yourself. It was about finally finding yourself. It was about finally breaking free. But here's the hidden beauty in this uncomfortable truth. Once you fully wake up, you stop being controlled by the same things that used to hold power over you. And trust me, that's when life actually starts to get interesting. Think about how much of your life you spent living on someone else's script. You followed all the rules, checked all the boxes, chased every goal they told you would make you happy, yet still ended up feeling hollow, like something essential was missing. That's because the script wasn't yours. It was written for a character that never actually existed. The character society wanted you to play, but never who you truly were. Now imagine throwing out that script entirely. Imagine tearing up every page that ever dictated how you were supposed to behave, how you were supposed to feel, what success looked like, or even what happiness was allowed to mean for you. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning with no more obligation to fake enthusiasm about things that don't matter. At first, it's going to feel scary, disorienting, like standing at the edge of a cliff, wondering what's next. But beneath that fear is an incredible sense of possibility, because for the first time in your life, you get to decide who you actually want to become. Not who you've been told to be, but who you genuinely are. Your priorities start to shift in ways you never expected. The stuff you once chased, the promotions, the validation, the endless pursuit of fitting in, suddenly loses all its shine. You start craving deeper conversations, genuine connections, friendships built on honesty instead of convenience. You start recognizing that the small moments you used to overlook, the quiet morning, a genuine laugh, a simple conversation under a starry sky. Those moments hold more meaning than all the status symbols and illusions you chased for years. And as this new reality sinks in, something even deeper changes inside you. You stop needing other people to get it. You no longer feel the urge to convince friends, family, or anyone else that you're on the right path. You simply start living your truth, and the right people, those who resonate with your frequency, those who also refuse to live life asleep, they naturally gravitate toward you. Suddenly, the loneliness you initially felt becomes a bridge rather than a barrier. It connects you to others who understand exactly what you're experiencing, who are brave enough to ask the same difficult questions you've been asking. You realize you were never alone. You were just temporarily surrounded by people too scared to wake up. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "No price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself." Think about what he meant. No discomfort, no loneliness, no temporary confusion is too high a price to finally reclaim your life. To finally look yourself in the mirror and say, "This is who I truly am, not who they told me I should be." And here's the powerful shift that happens when you own your truth fully. Life becomes infinitely richer. Colors feel brighter, music hits deeper, conversations with real people become more meaningful. It's as if your entire experience of being alive has suddenly been upgraded, because you're finally living as yourself, not some carefully crafted persona meant to keep the world comfortable. Yeah, the journey is messy. Yeah, it's unpredictable and scary sometimes. But isn't that exactly what makes it worth taking? Isn't real freedom, the kind of freedom that wakes you up excited instead of exhausted, exactly what you've been secretly craving this whole time? Because let's be honest, deep down, you've always known there had to be more to life than just existing. You've always felt something off, something missing, even when you tried your hardest to pretend otherwise. And now that something is finally within your reach, the question is, are you brave enough to grab it? But you know what's really fascinating and maybe even a little unsettling? Once you truly wake up, you'll start seeing through the subtle games that society plays to keep everyone asleep. And you'll realize they're everywhere, not just in your friendships or relationships, but literally everywhere you look. You'll notice how companies constantly convince you that you're incomplete without their products, how the latest phone or car or designer clothing is supposed to magically fill that hollow feeling you have. But once you're awake, you'll see straight through it. You'll know that buying stuff never actually fills the emptiness. It just distracts you from it for a little while longer. You'll start recognizing how the media you consume, movies, shows, news, conditions you to accept certain things as normal. Chasing money at all costs? Normal. Being exhausted all the time? Normal. Feeling anxious, stressed, and insecure about every aspect of your life? Normal. You'll see how all this conditioning serves someone else's interests, not yours. It's almost like waking up inside a lucid dream. At first it's bizarre and uncomfortable, but soon it becomes fascinating. You're not just a passive participant anymore. You're observing everything. You're noticing the hidden agendas behind messages you use to accept blindly. You start asking questions like, who benefits from me feeling this way? And what are they trying to sell me right now? Philosopher and writer Aldous Huxley described something similar in his book, Brave New World. He predicted a future where people would be so conditioned to chase shallow pleasures, cheap entertainment, meaningless relationships, constant consumption, that they'd willingly surrender their freedom. Huxley warned us that people would become prisoners who love their chains, distracted from ever realizing they're trapped at all. Doesn't that sound disturbingly familiar? But here's the good news. Once you see these chains, once you feel them and acknowledge them, that's when you start to break them. That's when you become truly dangerous to a system built on numbness and distraction. That's when you stop being easily manipulated by emotional marketing, by fake news, by influencers selling empty dreams. You'll begin to see that society is designed to reward obedience, not authenticity. It praises you when you're exhausted, overworked, and numb because those traits make you easy to control. It calls you successful when you're disconnected from your own intuition because disconnected people don't challenge the status quo. But when you start reconnecting with yourself, your real feelings, your authentic values, you become something entirely new, uncontrollable. You become powerful, precisely because you're no longer playing the game that keeps everyone else asleep. And here's the surprising part. People around you, Even those who aren't fully awake yet will sense the change in you. They'll start to wonder what you're doing differently, why you're suddenly radiating a calm, grounded energy they can't quite explain. Some will be curious, others might get defensive or even uncomfortable because your presence quietly exposes their own illusions. You'll find that your very existence begins to challenge the people around you, not because you're preaching or judging, but simply because you're living in a way that's undeniably real. Without even realizing it, you're inviting them to question their own reality, to face truths they may not be ready to handle. This is why true awakening is revolutionary, not because it changes the world overnight, but because it changes you. And when enough individuals wake up, society has no choice but to change too. It can't survive the same way once enough people refuse to play along. So maybe, just maybe, that feeling you've labeled as depression or anxiety, that ache inside your chest, maybe it's something bigger, something more important. Maybe it's your invitation to step up, wake up, and finally start living life on your terms, instead of blindly following the script handed to you by someone else. And trust me, there's nothing more powerful than someone who has fully stepped into their truth, who refuses to be controlled by illusions, who chooses clarity over comfort every single day. So here's the real question. Are you going to keep explaining yourself to a world that never really cared to understand you? Or are you finally ready to walk away from the noise and trust that your truth is enough? Because once you stop chasing their approval, once you stop needing everyone to get it, you become unshakable. You move differently. You speak with less, but say way more. You stop trying to fit in and start standing out without even trying. And if this hit something deep in you, if this video made something inside you go, damn, yeah, that's me, then don't let it stop here. Drop a comment and tell me where you're at in this journey. And yeah, we're building something real here, a space where people actually get it. Like the video so more people who feel lost and unheard can find this. Subscribe if you're done playing small. And if you're already on this path, keep going. You're not crazy, you're just waking up. The world might not understand you yet, but here, you're not alone.